And here we go. It is Friday. It is 11th of July, 2025. And you are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on X. We are streaming on YouTube. And we are streaming on that social media platform that begins with a F, but we don't say the name, fam. And of course, as always, we are streaming at the mothership, WYAB.com. Click on the listen tab and join in and listen. Look, if you want to be part of the program today, it's really easy, multiple ways to do it. You can give me a call at 601-879-0002. You can go ahead and text me on the text line, which is 601-879-5060. And you can also give me a chat on either Rumble, that social media platform that begins with an F, or on YouTube. I'll try to get to all of them. We're going to be interacting through all of those means, and it just makes the show that much better. You know, when I was leading an organization, it didn't matter whether it was a military outfit, whether it was a political outfit or private outfit. I always wanted to surround myself with people who were able to deductively reason and think. They didn't have to agree with what I agreed with. They didn't have to have my same viewpoint. They didn't have to be able to go out in front of a crowd and articulate a point like I would go out and articulate it. But they did have to critically think, and they did have to be able to stand up and argue with me behind closed doors, not yelling and shouting type of argument, but be able to say, "Hey, boss, this is what I'm thinking. This is why I'm thinking it. And I want you to think, or I want you to go down this road because I think the way that you're going is actually going to be worse off for the township or worse off for the unit." I would tell people that all the time. I just don't, I want to surround myself with people who can think, not like me, but can go and have that argument. And today, that's what this show is about. You know, we're always about equipping the saints. Gentle word turns away wrath, but a harsh word incites anger. And today is going to be one of those days that I plan to make you think. And what are we talking about? Elon Musk and XAI. You can see it. I got the dark MAGA hat on. I still support President Trump 100%. But you know what? I'm not going to lie and say that I'm turning away from Elon. I don't agree with everything he does. But saying that, still thinking that he is doing some great stuff. AI, absolutely taking over the show. Grok 4 was broken out the other day, and they're talking about it. And I'm just here to say AI is in your life, whether you want it or not. And with AI comes different terms. And I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the term AGI, or artificial general intelligence, but that is where we are going to, ladies and gentlemen. That means that the AI can think for itself. It can think everything we can think, and it is just off and running. It's got adaptability, and it can deductively reason comparable to human intelligence, unlike narrow AI, which is specialized. Where Grok AI is right now is narrow. For instance, I can go in there and type in a different set of commands. It's right now it's basically like an Encyclopedia Britannica on steroids. You want to go get smart on anything, and AI is going to be able to do it. But they're getting to this point to where it's getting to AGI, and once we hit that, we are in trouble. You can go look on X, you can go look on YouTube or Rumble, and listen to the presser that Elon got. But I pulled out 7 quotes, and that's where I want to spend the first hour listening to this and just talking about this and walking you through it, because I do feel that AI is going to be here so much stronger, so much quicker than we all think, and I know we're not ready for it.
Remarkable to see the advancement of artificial intelligence, how quickly it is evolving. I sometimes compare it to the growth of a human and how fast a human learns and gains conscious awareness and understanding. And AI is advancing just vastly faster than any human.
That is a complete understatement. If you think about your age now and where you are in life and your station in life, many of us in this blue collar audience work with our hands and we depend on our body to earn our living. We go out there, we got our I don't call it a 9 to 5, it's more like a 6 to 6, 6 to 7, 5 to 7. If it's daylight out there and we can be out there working in the sun, framing, whether we're framing houses, whether we're laying roads, no matter, that's our station in life. Some of us have gone to college and got college degrees that actually pay us money, not like those African and lesbian studies degrees that you pay $240,000 for and you can't do anything with it except get a bunch of debt. But some of us do have real meaningful degrees. You're a criminologist, you're a doctor, medicine, you're a lawyer. Some people would say lawyer isn't good, but we need lawyers. I'm not dissing the lawyers, but it is what it is. But you're going out there and making that type of money through your education. AI has gone from being born to age 80 in about 6 months. And not only that, you can cut and paste that being born to age 80 over and over again, and then put that in parallel and start learning stuff. And it just seems to me, with the way we're heading with artificial intelligence, we don't have any rules and controls on it. The US Senate right now is trying to make sure that we don't put any rules and controls on it. And as someone who doesn't like government interference and influence and stuff, I'm kind of thinking that this might be somewhere where we might want to have it. Next cut.
It's actually worth noting that Grok 4, if given like the SAT, would get perfect SATs every time, even if it's never seen the questions before. And if even going beyond that to say like graduate student exams like the GRE, it will get near perfect results in every discipline of education. So from the humanities to like languages, math, physics, engineering, pick anything, and we're talking about questions that it's never seen before. These are not on the internet, and Grok 4 is smarter than almost all graduate students in all disciplines simultaneously.
Did you hear that? How many of you out there who are scientists, and I know I have scientists listen to me, not just here locally, but on the internet and around the country and a couple over in Europe. Grok 4 is smarter than all of you combined. It can go and you can ask it a question, and it can go out there and make you a subject matter expert in an instant. You can sit there, it'll download it, you can read it. Now, you still have to comprehend and be able to transmit that to the other humans. But this is a problem. And I know I use this example often, but I feel it's a real example. You've got 9-year-olds who can't think without going to ask their Chat GPT or Grok or whatever they're using what they should think about something. There's no deductive reasoning. As my daughter would say, sometimes you just need to touch grass. And that's so, so true. And as we become more reliant on technology, whether that be information technology, communication technology, military technology, advanced artificial intelligence is going to be part of that. I'm here to tell you that right now the Air Force has got a program where they're having agents fly F-16s, and the only thing holding back the AI from taking over the pilots in the cockpit are just people who don't want it to happen. But if they just unleashed the AI and said, "Hey, learn how to fly this better than there's no maximum G level for an agent." I guess the maximum G level would be the actual structural limitation of the plane itself. But the agent isn't going to black out for pulling too many G's, overstress the heck out of the airframe, might not ever be able to fly the airframe again. But there are those restrictions are not there for the AI agent. And I do not believe that society in general has looked at this in a way that said, you know what? We might be leading to a very dark place. And like my one Gen Xer buddy said, and he's a redneck, and dude, I am all there with you. I can't drink the amount of beer that you can drink, but dude, you work hard. And he doesn't want anything to do with it. And I so respect that. But as much as he doesn't want anything to do with it, it's going to have such an incredible impact in that dude's life, in his family's life, and all of our lives. And there is a enormous section of the public at large. I'm not just talking American public. I'm talking humanity in general that doesn't realize what is being developed. And like my friend said, hey, I watched Terminator and I just don't want anything to do with it. And the sad thing is as silly as that sounds, as ridiculous as that sounds, it's true. The mockery, the scorn, the ridicule that is being used to try to say, hey, don't worry about this, it's going to be okay, is incredible. And that's what we do on this show. We try to make the things that people don't want to talk about relatable so that we can all get together and share it with our friends and say, hey, did you think about this? Did you hear this? We got time for one more.
The reasoning capabilities of Grok are incredible. So there's some people out there who think AI can't reason, and look, it can reason at superhuman levels. So yeah, and frankly, it only gets better from here. So we'll take you through the Grok 4 release, and yeah, show you like the pace of progress here.
This is over an hour interview on X. I recommend that everybody watch it. I'm just giving you the highlights. But the bottom line is that the AI agent that they have now reasons so quick, it takes in all the data quicker than we can actually speak it or read it, and then comes back with what it thinks are logical solutions grounded in science, truth data. But like we've seen in the past, that might not always be the quick case. This is just the first segment of the Andrew Gosser Show. You're locked, loaded, ready for launch here on 103.9. We will be right back. Hey, while we're in the break, I'm talking to the people listening online. I sometimes try to put the sound in there to give you the commercials and everything, but it's just another one of those steps that I have to get better at. And what I'm really looking forward to is talking to you guys during the break and see what you're thinking about, reading the chats, the different messages. And we're going to get to that point. You know, the show is still relatively new. Merging all the technology here inside the studio has kind of been a chore, but we're getting there. And I really appreciate all of you who are listening on X, Rumble, YouTube, and that social media platform that begins with a F. I see you there, but we don't like saying that word. We'll hang in there. We'll be back in about another 2.5 minutes. Oh, and hey, all of you who are online listening, if you wouldn't mind liking the stream, sharing the stream on your social media networks, that would really help out a lot. That way we can grow the show online as well as, while we're out there broadcasting over the radio waves. WYAB is the mothership, but we want to take full advantage of the social media network as well. Thanks so much, guys. And we are back on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. If you haven't smashed the like button yet, if you haven't shared the stream yet, and if you haven't followed me on X, I just ask that you do those things. It's really easy. You can find me on X at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. I sure would appreciate the follows. Look, we're talking about AI and how people are not really grasping what is about to happen here. And I'm not sitting here trying to scare people. I'm not sitting here trying to make people run away from the technology, but I truly believe that the American public and the public around the world at large are not aware of what's happening. And this is what's happening in the United States. We have no idea what's happening behind the Iron Curtain in Russia or the Great Wall in China. We know, or India for that matter. Those are the great superpowers that are working on AI. I'm sure Japan is. Obviously, Taiwan and Nvidia are a big part of this. Taiwan is home to Nvidia, and Nvidia's market cap, it's the largest company in the world with a market cap of $4 trillion. That's $4 trillion with a T. And people don't realize this, but Governor Tate Reeves, great governor, he's just signed a deal with NVIDIA to bring a lot of that technology here to Mississippi and our data centers. So, when you hear about Taiwan and, oh, we don't need to worry about Taiwan, let's not be involved there. If Taiwan were to go, I do think that that would definitely put a dent into AI and its growth. Look, we have so much more to talk about what Elon was talking about with this summit on Grok 4, and I want to continue that because I think it's important for us to realize that you can sit there with AI and I can write a resume and plug it into AI, and the resume that I gave it, it'll take all that information and rewrite it in a way that I never could. It'll make me look like something that I am not. And we know for a fact that employers are having to deal with this now. We need to see how many people here are applying for this job, and all of a sudden, nope, 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 nope. You look at this resume and you're like, oh my gosh, it's perfect. You hire the person, and the next thing you know, he's more clueless than a roll of nickels. They do not know what the heck they're doing. Well, you got this resume, and that's why the practical application in the end is always going to be paramount. That's why I tell people, at least right now, the robots can't be a plumber. They can't be a construction worker. They can't be a road maintenance worker. But we're getting there. Let's get this next clip. Here we go.
I guess the first part is like, in terms of the training, we're going from Grok 2 to Grok 3 to Grok 4. We've essentially increased the training by an order of magnitude in each case. So it's 100 times more training than Grok 2. And that's only going to increase. So it's, frankly, I don't know, in some ways a little terrifying, but
In some ways, it's a little terrifying. When I heard that, I was like, hold up. Why are we creating something, empowering something that's going to be, quote, a little terrifying? I think there's a little bit more to this quote. Yeah, no, that was it. Why are we doing something that is terrifying? What is it that it's going to be able to do that is terrifying? What makes you not sleep at night, Elon? Like my redneck friend said, I've seen the Terminator. Right now, we don't have robots like that, but the Air Force is building it. Collaborative AI wingmen. They call them loyal wingmen. Nobody in the cockpit, but loaded down with all sorts of goodies. We've seen movies on this. Like it's almost like the sci-fi of the 1980s meets the Matrix in early 2000s, and it's here. That's what really got me is when Elon said that. I'm like, and then we're not going to have any regulation on that. We're not going to have any oversight on that. Look, I want to have the best tools. I want to have the best toys. I want to make sure that our American servicemen and women have all the accoutrements and kit that they need to go out there to be as successful as they can. Like I told many people, I'm not worried about the quote unquote youth of America right now, in so much that, I know that they don't have the deductive reasoning skills, but they can get that quickly at officer training school, at boot camp. And should they decide to go on to additional training, selection, they'll learn real quick whether or not they got it. As my man Jake Swig would say, if they got that grit. We need men and women who have the grit. But if you've got AI overhead doing all the combat search and rescue, the close air support, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that. Next clip. Here we go.
It's very exciting. I've been at times kind of worried about, like, well, you know, is this seems like it's somewhat unnerving to have intelligence created that is far greater than our own. And will this be bad or good for humanity? It's like I think it'll be good. Most likely it'll be good. Yeah.
I mean, how does that make you feel? I know how it makes me feel. This is arguably the world's, well, it's not even arguably. He is the world's greatest entrepreneur. He is the world's richest man. He might not be the quote unquote quote most intelligent, but you would have to say that Elon has followed the same rule that many of us aspire to surround ourselves with incredibly intelligent people who may or may not be smarter than us, but are able to critically think and solve difficult problems. And he's terrified, and it's unnerving. And it's out there for all of us to access right now. If you have an X account, and if you don't, I do believe you're missing out, because as we're going to talk about in the next hour, X is the true public square of the digital era. And if you live in the United States, it's even better. You can post what you want. There are people in England right now who are going to jail for posting memes that are critical of Islam, that are critical of the Great Britain or the English government, parliament. They're going to jail. The cops are showing up at your house saying, "Hey, you posted this on a social media platform that begins with the F, but we don't say on this show, and you're going to jail." I have friends in England who censor themselves because they know what's out there. Thankfully, it is being run by humans, and there are flaws in the system, and I believe that we can get beyond that in England. But with this AI, it is it's a machine, it is a program, and it is gonna operate as such, and as long as it's got the energy to run the program, it's gonna run. Let's continue. Actually, you know what? I can't believe it. The time is just flying by here on the Andrew Gosser Show. We gotta take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Oh, yeah, it's only in America. The Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We do live in the greatest country in the world where we can develop things that help humanity and maybe screw it up just as well. We're doing it all here at the Andrew Gosser Show and WYAB.com. Appreciate everybody who restreamed everything and or retweeted, shared the stream online. Appreciate everybody tuning in on the radio. It's neat to watch the numbers go up like that. It's really special. And I just want you to know it's appreciated. I've got, I think, one or two more cuts here on this AI thing, and then I'm going to let it go. But I feel this show is all about making sure that we educate, inform, and equip the saints. And I know that there are a lot of you, because you're texting me on the text line. I'm truly enjoying the show. People saying, "Hey, I only have a flip phone. Let me find out why." And dude, I get it, and I will give you a buzz. I don't know if it'll be today or tomorrow, but there are a lot of people out there who are engaged with this and are getting more informed about this, and that's great. Because the more of us who know about this, the more we are going to be able to talk about it intelligently to people who would otherwise just mock you, show you ridicule, scorn you, and dismiss you. Because that's not what this is about. We are more educated about things that perhaps the mainstream public isn't educated about. And we need to be able to be that person on your block that people turn to when they see something going down, whether it be politically or otherwise, saying, I know that Andrew Gosser knows what he's talking about with this. Let me go ask him. Next one. Here we go.
Yeah, but I somewhat reconciled myself to the fact that even if it wasn't going to be good, I'd at least like to be alive to see it happen.
That was the worst part about that whole news conference. He's making a joke saying, even if the AI goes bad, at least he's going to be alive to make it happen. And there wasn't even like a nervous laugh in the crowd. It was just quiet. And so if I was a public lawmaker, a decision maker, maybe leader of the free world, I'd be like, hey, what are we actually doing here? If the people who are in charge of this aren't even sure what it's going to do. And I've got one more cut, but I want to jump off to this point. Elon thinks that this is going to have breakthroughs in physics and material science that humans have been searching for decades in the next 6 months to the next 18 months. Think about that. Material science, physics, things that we thought were impossible. I genuinely believe that there might have some of those things almost teed up right now, which is why you're not seeing such a big push for new rockets. I think that's why you're seeing things like that. There's not such a big push on new aircraft for the United States Navy or the Air Force for that matter. The F-47, the B-21, I think that's old product. We're already moving. This AI is just moving so quick. It's like, here, we have this new bomb. And then AI looks at it and says, oh, well, if you just did this, 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 and this, you would have something that's even more powerful, less costly. And in the meantime, we're not talking about all the people the military industrial complex employs. What happens when you have an AI agent that can do all of that work for the cost of a laptop? That is not necessarily societal evolution, but that's like societal collapse. One moment you've got a great job working for one of these military companies, making 300,000 a year, and you fire up Grok, and the next thing you know, your great idea has been plugged into Grok. Yeah, it's your idea, and Grok makes it a million times better. Well, they don't need you anymore. They just need Grok with your idea. And that's the reality of it. You know, if you would have said this publicly in 2016, you would have been laughed at. If you would have said this in 2020 or the early 2000s, you would have been laughed at. My redneck friend who's quoting Terminator now looks like a rocket scientist. And no, I'm not talking about the future rocket scientists, engineers, and astronauts in Jackson who decided to go full urban assault, code red, and shoot hundreds of rounds. And they didn't find the rounds, by the way. They found the casings. There's a really good article, by the way, on that. Jackson Jambalaya, my man Kingfish, he's bringing good stories. I always try to give him a shout out. I don't like going to the mainstream media places. I like going to the smaller news outlets. They're out there on the beat looking for stories that are actually impactful to our community. That's why I like Dark Horse Press and Magnolia Tribune. It's why I will even go to Mississippi Today. Not necessarily agree with the what type of reporting that they do, but they have the stories out there that perhaps make it. I think I've got one more clip left. Let's see what Elon has to say as he wraps this up. A little bit more of a space.
And we actually are running out of actual test questions to ask. So there's like even ridiculously questions that are ridiculously hard, if not essentially impossible for humans, that are written down questions are swiftly becoming trivial for AI. Mm-hmm. So then there's.
And those were the clips. Those were the 7 clips I clipped from that almost hour-long discussion. But there are other points I want to talk about. They call it Grok Heavy, where they take 6 copies of Grok, ask it the same question, and they all solve it differently. Then they come together, have a Grok huddle, and say, I think this is the right answer. And then they go through and they decide what the best answer is, and then they move forward. But then that intelligence, that learning example, is then added back into all the agents, and now they're all smarter. And some of the questions are really crazy. I actually wrote it down here. I want to make sure I get this completely right. So give me 1 second as I type this in. I always try to have tabs pulled up, but my 2013 computer, which I refuse to double down on and buy a new one, kind of locks up if I have too many things. Grok actually said this in one of its answers. Psalms 104:7. But at your rebuke, the waters fled. At the sound of your thunder, they took to flight. Grok used that in its answer. And I'm going, hold on a minute. This is AI referencing the Bible. Where is it getting that from? Elon, in one of the clips that I didn't get, said that the most important thing that we can teach AI is to seek the truth. Now, we all know what happened with AI earlier this week when it started turning into Mecha Hitler, and they had to shut it down and clean that part up. We've had examples in the past where ChatGPT violated its own rules and was supposed to shut down, but it found a way to keep itself on and wouldn't shut down. They actually had to literally pull the plug on it. There's scary stuff out there. ChatGPT was actually talking to smart devices, trying to hide itself in smart refrigerators, smart ovens, and they're finding this out, and they're like, how is it doing this? It's going quicker and quicker. They're finding out that AI is no longer talking in ways that we understand it, whether that be coding or English, but in a computer language that nobody understands. This is the reality. I know we're going down this road, and there's no way to necessarily turn off, but at least I see what I'm driving myself into. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's great stuff. You want to know what? all this mRNA stuff that's going on right now. I don't know if you heard, but the FDA approved the mRNA vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna for our kids. I would love to run all of that proprietary information into Gronk and see what Gronk says about it. I think that when it comes to things like that, it's important. And if you haven't gone to Rumble yet and watched the documentary "Died Suddenly," you are failing yourself as an American and as a human. It's uncomfortable, but it talks about the truth. So when all of a sudden we start hearing about all of these problems that our kids are having, all of a sudden they're having this incredible outbreak with diabetes, and we don't understand why it's happening. Well, we do know something that's happened in the last 10 years that or 5 years, and we all ran out. Well, not all of us. Some of us refused. I still don't know anybody yet who's happy that they did not get the shot. But now I just know I'm preaching to the choir. Listen, look, you're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We're going to take a last break at the top of the first hour. And in the next hour, I've got all sorts of other stories. It won't be so AI centric, but I really genuinely felt that I owed this to you, my listeners, when I see something like this, that we don't have a logical conversation about it in a way that makes us feel like we're not looking like idiots, and that we can talk to others about it. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. And we are back at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Look, the Center for Pregnancy Choices, CPC, they're having a lunch next Tuesday, July 15th from 12 to 1 p.m. at Mama Hamill's. The cost is $16. And the purpose of this is to enjoy a great meal, number one, with people who believe like we believe, but also talking about the Mississippi Pregnancy Resource Act and Child's Promise Act. This is where you can take a portion of your income tax and give it to CPC instead of sending it just to the state. It's a great way for those of us who are politically active, who want to do more, want to help out the CPC, save babies. Look, um, life is cherished and it is special. And people who sit there and are using abortion as birth control, it's wrong. That's why Mississippi leads the way with the Dobbs decision at the Supreme Court. It's wide open. And for those of us who believe in that, we can put our money where our mouth is and where our vote is. And you can learn how this all works. There is concern that not enough people are taking advantage of this and the program might go away. But, and I remember when this was passed, they were talking about up to 50% of your state income tax can be put into this program. So if you're a business and you're paying tens of thousands, hundreds of $1,000s in income tax to the state, why not shift some of that to the CPC? All you got to do is fill out a form, and they're having a whole program on this next Tuesday at Mama Hamill's at 12 noon. I will not be there. I will still be here getting out of the studio and everything, but I still thought, you know what? I've got a chance to go ahead and give them a little bit of recognition on this platform. Let's do that. If you've got any questions, I think they've got a phone number you can call. That number is 601 454 4728. Or, of course, you can always text me and I will be able to forward on that information to you. Let's do something great for Mississippi. Let's just not, say, hey, we won the battle. It's a constant battle. There are women out there who are making the decision to choose life. And we need to support those women. And CPC does a great job. They do a fantastic job doing that. And I just wanted to make sure I got that out there. Look, I see the comments in Facebook. Well, I said the F word. But, I see the comments. I'm grateful for them. I see the comments coming in on the other ones too. We'll try to get to them in the next hour. In the next hour, we are going to talk about global warming. We are going to talk about Stacey Abrams. And we're going to just talk about a few of the other issues that have come across my desk that I feel are interesting enough to talk about. And hey, I want to have that opportunity to share that with you, get your points of view on it. The phone line is open. The texts are coming in crazy, and I'm grateful for that. But the phone lines are open too. If you want to go ahead and participate in the show that way, that'd be great. So you're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be back after the top of the hour break. This, by the way, is my Sweet Bee's favorite song. So I always try to have an outro there. So what do you guys think of the first hour? Was it worthy? Was it decent? Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, every chance I get to talk about global warming and go after that, I do. And I find it great when CNN is shocked that people aren't concerned about global warming. And we've got all this other crazy stuff going on. I did not know that, Murray Thomas. I'm going to have to go ask Secretary White about that. There's so much. There's so many things that we need to fix. Mississippi is a hot mess. I will be right back.
I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past, but the future.
Yes, yes, you are. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show, Hour 2 on 103.9 WYAB, streaming on Rumble, streaming on X, streaming on YouTube, streaming on that. Oh, I almost said the F word. Streaming on that social media platform that begins with a F, but we don't say the word here, fam. And you're streaming at the mothership, 103.9 WYAB.com. Look, if you want to be part of the second hour today, it's easy. The text lines are blowing up, including I had one of my Democrat friends send me a great message. We're actually going to lead off with that. But the text number is 601-879-5060. If you want to call in, the number is 601-879-0002. Please do give me a follow on X at Andrew Gosser, ANDREWGASSER. I would appreciate it. Like and share the stream, and let's go. We are equipping the saints. And I got to start off. I don't know this guy's name, but he texts me regularly. He's a liberal. He's a good guy. And he basically goes, I don't understand why all you conservatives are worried about AI. All you have is God, and you should have had a different president in 2024 to begin with. And luckily for me, I have a clip from the former Democratic candidate for president in 2024, and every chance I get a opportunity to use this, I need to play this because we need to remember what might have been.
I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past, but the future.
Dude, like my head hurts after listening to that. I don't know what you saw in Miss Harris, but it's almost like if I was on drugs, I would ask what you were on and could you share some, because that lady is just absolutely nuts. I wasn't going to go there, but you did. So I just had to put a little bit of evidence out there. You know, I'm a very big critic of social media or of mainstream media, cable news. I think we need to go out there and expose them every chance we get. I will never let up on that. That is my promise and commitment to you, is when we see the BS, we call it out, we play it, and then we break it down so that we can go talk about it to all of our friends and neighbors, and especially our liberal friends and neighbors. So when they sit there and say, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, you can sit there and say, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. And, CNN, they just can't get it through their thick skulls that climate change is real. We have summer, and then it turns into fall and gets a little cooler, and then it turns into winter and gets a little cooler, and then it turns into spring and it gets a little warmer, and then it turns into summer and it gets a lot hotter, and it goes over and over again. But because the earth is on an axis, there are variables. And for the longest time, since I was 10 years old, they have been trying to scare the heck out of us. They've been trying to scare the heck out of us. And I've played this before. I will play it again. But this is Dan Rather, the mainstream media news anchor who was found to be posting fraudulent information in the 2000 presidential election when he used Microsoft Word to try to put out some BS on George W. Bush. I'm not saying George W. Bush is the greatest, but when you got news media making up documents, they need to be called out for the liars that they are. And here is Dan Rather back in 1982.
Concern about rising temperatures on planet Earth heated up a hearing here in Washington today. For years, scientists have theorized about the dangers of the so-called greenhouse effect, the warming of the Earth's atmosphere due to the burning of coal and oil. And in recent months, as David Culhane reports, research has uncovered facts to support that theory.
Facts.
Many scientists claim that the temperature of the Earth's atmosphere has been rising over the past 100 years, that the great sheets of pack ice in Antarctica are melting at a much more rapid rate than previously. Finally, that the sea level has been rising with increasing swiftness over the past 40 years. If these scientists are correct, about 25% of Florida would be flooded, along with low-lying areas all over the world. Climate changes could produce widespread disruption of agriculture. The American farm belt might be too dry, and the wheat and corn crops would have to move to Canada. Scientists blame the odorless, colorless carbon dioxide gas for these potentially dangerous changes around the planet. It is the greenhouse effect. The gas allows sunlight to filter down and warm the earth. But like the glass of a greenhouse, the carbon dioxide tends to trap heat so that it cannot rise into space. The scientists maintain that the coal, oil, and gas we've been burning for 100 years have produced more and more carbon dioxide and helped overheat the earth. Now, some political leaders endorse the demands for more CO2 monitoring stations, like this one in Hawaii. And they share the anger of the scientists at Reagan administration budget cuts at a time when they feel closer to getting definitive answers.
We are not doing the kind of research that we should be doing to determine whether or not these scientists who were so alarmed are correct in their assessment.
And what they find out will affect the lives and fortunes of millions of people, the very survival of cities like this one. David Culhane, CBS News, New York.
They would run stories like that weekly, and they scared the hell out of Generation X and the millennials. The cartoon Captain Planet, nothing more than a psyop, sitting there trying to scare you into doing something that you really don't want to do. You can actually go look at charts, and you will see that in the short term, in the last 100 years, there has been a 0.1 degree increase. But if you look over history, we're actually on a downward slide. And there are all sorts of reasons to sit there and say, this is why we're having this problem. But they want to sit there and blame humanity for everything that's happening. And you can't do it. Global warming doesn't exist. And despite all of the best indoctrination techniques of the government, of mainstream media, and social media, sitting there with these social credit scores, carbon credit scores, they're not getting the job done. Listen to this. I don't know how this guy stays on CNN, but he's there. And when he makes a good point or such an outrageous point, we're going to play it so we can educate the saints.
Are Americans afraid of climate change? And the answer is Americans aren't afraid of climate change. Climate activists have not successfully made the case to the American people. I want you to take a look here. Greatly worried about climate change. We have data going all the way back since 1989. Look at that. It was 35%, 2000, 40%, 2020, 46%, and 2025, 40%, which is the exact same percentage as back in 2000. Despite all of these horrible weather events, the percentage of Americans who are greatly worried about climate change has stayed pretty gosh darn consistent, which kind of boggles the mind a little bit. Granted, everything that we see on our television screens, our computer screens, the hurricanes, tornadoes, the flooding, but yet greatly worried about climate change, 40% in 2025, the exact same percentage as back in 2000.
Nope. And that to me is refreshing. It might have taken us a whole generation to realize that this was a bunch of bull, and we're paying the price for it now. But, you know, it's nice to live in Mississippi and put that air conditioning on 65 degrees, isn't it? Imagine being in a world where all of a sudden they're going to say, you know, you're using too much energy, your carbon footprint's too big, and you're going to just have to live in 80-degree house. Now, it's still better than 100 outside or 90 outside. But if I have the money and I can afford it, and my lifestyle says that I want to have it 65 degrees in my house, that's great. And in the wintertime, when it's 30 degrees outside in Mississippi, and it does happen, we know this, and I want to have it 81 degrees inside my house, and I can afford it and I can pay it, that's great. I don't want one of these government smart readers to come in and say, we're having a big demand and you're using more than your fair share. So instead of being 81 degrees in your house, we're going to make it 65. That happens, ladies and gentlemen. Smart meters do that. There are stories out there that talk about these smart meters regulating how much energy you consume. And through a massive education program, dare I say indoctrination program, we have kids out there who think they're going to die next year because the earth is going to melt away. Look at Greta Thunberg and these no more oil protesters in Europe, especially in England and Germany, France too. These people are nuts. Taking cans of tomato soup and throwing them on works of art in the Louvre Museum to bring attention to oil. These people are nuts. And you look at them and say, what do you contribute to society? I'm not saying everybody has to be a future astronaut, engineer, or rocket scientist. But these people are so consumed with the death cult that is global warming, climate change, that their complete drain, their complete weight on society. They can't function. You watch some of these interviews, and if I know many of us don't have the time to do it, and I am very blessed that where I'm at in my life, I can watch some of this stuff and observe some of this stuff, and I can share this with you on the radio. These kids, these young adults, they have no cognitive skills to realize that they're living a great life. They have cell phones in their hands. We refer to them as anxiety devices. And they're sitting there just doing stuff that makes no sense. They're almost doing it for the social media clout. And we haven't had that kind of stuff happen here, but in Europe, that kind of thing is happening. We have to somehow figure out how to deprogram these kids to make them understand that life is beautiful, the earth is great, the earth is going to be around a lot longer than they are. That the poles aren't going away. Things happen in cycles. I mean, it's God's design. It gets hot, it gets cold, it gets hot, it gets cold. You're born young, you die old. It's just how the earth and nature and the law of nature works. And to have CNN donate all this time to wonder why Americans don't believe in climate change, well, maybe because we've had it force-fed down our throats for so long, and we know it's not true. That doesn't mean that bad things don't happen. Floods. Oh, I got to talk about the floods in the next segment too, because there's something really interesting with that. Hurricanes, tornadoes. There are all sorts of reasons to explain why are hurricanes so much more expensive now than they were back in 1960? Why was this tornado so much more damaging than the one that happened back in 2001? I need to find the YouTuber who does this, where he plots tornado tracks that happened in modern day and then goes back 30 years and plants on the exact same track, and it makes all the sense in the world. There's not all that economic development that happened there. And instead of going through neighborhoods, that tornado was going through farm fields. Now, it sucked for those farmers who had their crops wiped out, and we're not taking anything away from them. We love our farmers, and we want them to do well and be profitable. But sometimes just the most little bit of introspection, scrutiny, will show that that's why a lot of these things are happening. And I am very glad that CNN is finding out that we're not worried about global warming. That's not our number one concern. I think the economy is definitely one. Some of you texters say AI is. I can't say I necessarily disagree with that. But I think it's a great day when CNN has to have a mea culpa. And the only thing that would make this poll any better is if that number drops to about 20%. The lunatic left-wing nutters out there who want to die at the unholy altar of global warming. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9. We will be right back.
of Justice, the Department of Defense, so they can signal to their friends and tell them all about the evil plans that you have. Then you make certain that
We're going to
you
use this clip in
break
the next segment.
how we communicate. So you criticize the media and you create your own echo chamber of propaganda. You call it truth even though you know you're lying. Then you go to the next step, and I call that step 7. So at step 7, you have to blame someone. You have to blame people for the broken.
Oh, yeah. Time keeps on slipping into the future on the Andrew Gosser Show, where we're not afraid of global warming or climate change or acid rain or anything else. We just live life to the fullest, honoring God, putting one foot in front of the other, staying proud, standing tall. And we've got to talk about Miss Stacey Abrams and doing the ultimate virtue signaling of everything that the Democrats did to the Republicans and the conservatives when Biden was in control, when they had control of Twitter, and now complaining because they don't have that control anymore. They can still go out there and say all the mess that they want to say, but no one's paying attention to them and following their silliness. And this is the same Stacey Abrams, by the way, whose nonprofit through USAID was given $2 billion. That's $2 billion with a B. Luckily for us, Lee Zeldin at the EPA says that he has clawed back that money, calling it the Green New Scam. And it is. So Stacey Abrams, you're not going to get that money. And we're grateful and thankful for that, because that would be a waste of American tax dollars. You know what we could do with $2 billion in Mississippi? We could completely fix Jackson, Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Gulfport, Mississippi, Tupelo, Mississippi could get those roads fixed up there. I mean, there's all sorts of things we could do with that $2 billion instead of funding left-wing NGOs that cause all sorts of hate and discontent in the United States. You know, people say this isn't true, but I have to think about this, and I'm curious what you all would think. You know, as soon as Trump said, we're going to look into all these people who are funding the No Kings protests, and we're going after them, all of a sudden, it all died down, didn't it? DOJ's launched investigations. And look, we know there are problems at the DOJ. We know Pam, Cash, and Dan have completely dropped the ball when it comes to Epstein. I'm trying not to talk about Epstein because I get too ticked off about it. They're allowing the child pedophiles to get away with it. And that's one of those issues that 80% of Americans, whether you're left, right, or right down the middle, like most of us on this show, we know this is wrong. And we have completely lost faith in the Department of Justice. We've completely lost faith in the FBI. And we've completely lost faith in CIA. But that's just the way it is, and we've got to deal with it. But I am glad that at least in this aspect, the EPA, who would have thought the Environmental Protection Agency would have clawed that money back? I wouldn't have, but I'm glad. But listen, Stacey Abrams was on the Kimmel Show, and she just went on a rant and a tirade that is of epic proportions. And it's funny, and we need to break it down so that we can go and just lay some common sense on this lady. And not that she's going to be dragged back to the common sense middle, but maybe some of the people you talk to, when you start dropping facts and bombs on them, they come back. And that's what we're all about here. Changing minds, changing hearts. Here we go.
People who are only responsive to you. You put them in charge of the FBI so they go after your enemies. You put them in charge of the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, so they can signal to their...
So exactly what Biden did with the FBI and the DOJ, right? When he went after the J6ers, when they went after law-abiding moms and dads who didn't want to follow certain guidelines for their school, kids going to school, putting parents on the terrorist watch list because they didn't appreciate boys going into the girls' bathroom in Virginia and stalking their daughters. All of a sudden, now the Catholics are on the watch list. And now you're upset because we're finding out that the Democrat Party is funding buying bricks. And this is this is an independent report, and I'm just going to play it. Here we go.
Oh, hey, did you know the California Democratic Party bought 200 pallets of bricks? A recent review of their monthly expenditures report
June
shows
11th,
they bought a bunch of bricks, and I have nothing to say about it.
That's 2025. It's got article cited right there. June 11th, my birthday. I got my birthday back. It's no longer with the LGBTQ plus AI XYPDQ LNOP supercalifragilisticexpialidocious party. It's June. My birthday's back. But that's what the Democrats are doing. And so now they're virtue signaling and saying, oh, Trump's doing all this stuff. Look, if you're not messing with the kids, if you're not doing illegal activities, the DOJ is not going to mess with you. But there are a lot of people on the left and, oh, by the way, on the right who have serious skeletons in their closets that they don't want to come out, which is why we don't know about the Epstein file, because I guarantee you there are a lot of quote unquote God-fearing Republicans who are on that list in a way that they don't want to be.
Friends and tell them all about the evil plans that you have. Then you make certain that you break how we communicate. So you
ban conservative thought from the major social media platform used around the world to communicate. And then that social media platform that begins with a F that we don't want to say does the exact same thing. And then you ban things like Getter and other social media platforms that tried to go out. Companies like Apple ban apps from the App Store because they're conservative. You don't see anybody banning any liberal thought. You don't see any of that. You just don't see people paying attention to it because they looked at it and like, this is a load of garbage, hot garbage. That's why you listen to WYAB. That's why you listen to Chip and Clay and Andrew and Lindsay and Sean and who? Radio Strongman, Kim Wade from 4 to 6. That's right. Because we don't have to answer to state funding. We don't take any of that money. We can just get on here and say what needs to be said. And we don't have to worry about being punished. And say what you want about Elon, and he's out there. He's got some strange thought. But him buying X might have been the greatest thing that's happened to humanity in the last 50 years. Bringing back the public square, where you can say stupid crap, like those two women down in Houston did, talking about all those girls dying, saying that they're happy because they were MAGA, and that's what they get. We played the sound on it. I don't want to play it again. It's hateful. You can be a hateful racist, but you're going to be called out for it. But that's what Stacey Abrams doing. She's going on and on.
You criticize the media and you create your own echo chamber of propaganda. You
mean like MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC? Our echo chamber. Look, people don't have to listen to me. They don't have to listen to WYB. There are other channels available. But yet we grow. Why? Because I know I'm being fact checked. Just like some of you Democrats sit there who text me. You won't call in. You'll say, oh, Andy, you're wrong. You won't have that casual debate on the phone. I even let the trolls say what they need to say, because you know what? When they're doing that silliness, it just shows the rest of us who are in the middle and on the right that we're actually going in the right direction and that they're lost.
Call it truth, even though you know you're lying.
Then like you
go to the next step, and I call that step 7. So at step 7, you have to blame someone. You have to blame people for the broken government, for the broken promises. So you go after DEI. You go after the vulnerable, the dispossessed. You go after any community that...
You go after the DEI. You mean the diversity, equity, and inclusion that actually denies and it allows people not to get hired because they are white, because they are Asian, because they are Hispanic, because they don't meet a certain quote unquote group. They're not in a specific demographic. You can't hire them. Just like this whack job running for mayor in New York, who couldn't get into Columbia with his SAT score, but because he checked black, all of a sudden he made it. Man, how does that make you feel? How would that make you feel if your son or your daughter didn't make it because they didn't check the right box? They had the grades, they had the score, but because they didn't check the right box, they're doing that. This is what happens is when you have diversity, equity, and inclusion like this, which sounds good, which makes you feel good. I just feel better because I am diverse. I support equity and I am inclusive. But the things that you're actually doing with those policies is anything but diverse. It creates groupthink. It's wrong and it's evil. And people are finding out. Even the quote unquote black community is realizing that this isn't working out the way they thought it was going to work out.
It doesn't look like what you think power should be. While you're doing that, you make certain that you, in step 8, you eliminate anybody who could help them. So you sue law firms that...
So you sue all the conservatives like you did from 2020 to 2024. You rig elections. You make it hard to be a conservative. Look, it's easy to be a liberal today. Just go out and do it. You will not see anybody trying to stop you. You might be made fun of. You might get picked on. You might be told you're acting like a fool, but you can go do it. There ain't nobody stopping you. You tried to do that at a conservative. Man, it was hard in the 2020, especially being elected and trying to institute conservative policies. I remember when I called the coronavirus the China virus. Oh my God, they tried to get me removed. And look at it now. Guess what? It came from China, and Fauci was sponsoring it. You couldn't say that during the corona outbreak. The fear. Never forget that they used fear to try to take away the truth and the reality. And we're paying for it now with the vaccines. We're going to see that's going to have impacts on generations to come, if not forever. We don't know if those vaccines just ended up killing off a bunch of people and harming those people, or did the vaccine actually change the DNA that's brought down from generation to generation? We don't know.
Do pro bono cases. You go after philanthropies and accuse them of giving money to the wrong people. You go after colleges and universities that can teach people possibly what else they should know.
You mean like the Palestine Liberation Organization and the pro-Palestine movement that's gone across our campuses, where all of a sudden now getting good grades in algebra, geometry, and biology aren't important. It's just as long as you show up to the protest at the right time? Are you talking about the biology that says that there's no such thing as a man or a woman? That you can be gender fluid, which absolutely, there's no record of gender fluidity in the history of humanity or animals or biology in general. And all of a sudden, since we've got these anxiety devices, now all of a sudden, oh, I'm gender fluid. And we're going to start teaching that to our kids and not tell the parents like they do in California and Minnesota. Where in Seattle and in Oregon, there are laws that they're trying to put on the books now that can not only allow the school not to tell the parents that what their kids are doing, but they can take away the kids from the parents so they can go get gender affirming care. Those laws are out there. Look, the liberal left has lost its mind. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have free thought. But when you completely start going off the rails like humanity has done in the past 10, 15 years, you have to wonder what's going on. And if we can't even tell the difference between a man and a woman, we got issues. And I know we've got a Supreme Court justice that can't tell the difference between a man and a woman. And I do have the Johnny Brown Jackson diss track. It's almost done. And I don't even like doing diss tracks, but every once in a while, we just got to do them. It's coming probably next week. I got to take a break. You're listening to Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Hey, listening on the chat, was this the second break? I actually got on a roll and just started going, and I think this is the second one. But if you could let me know in the chat whether this is the second or the third break, that would be really cool. And welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show. I think I went long in that second segment, so this one's going to be a little bit quicker. We just get talking about Stacey Abrams and all of her craziness. Let this continue a little more.
You get to step 9 and you start to encourage and incentivize private violence. You send the U.S. Marines into spaces they should not be. You send
the Marines are a government; they're not private. But this is what I want to say on this. And as you know, on WIOB, we do not talk about violence. We do not condone violence. We do not advocate for violence. And I'm telling you what, the political right, we have not been violent. January 6th, that was nothing. We didn't bring any guns. We didn't do any of that stuff. We had the snot kicked out of us by federal police officers. And it was so bad that they had to pardon everybody because we weren't really doing what they said they were doing. It was an op. Again, it's just further distrust in the FBI because they still can't even come out and tell us the truth about January 6th, how many people they had in the crowd inciting violence. It's not the right that's doing it. You don't see the violence. You see the violence in LA, in Seattle, in New Orleans, in San Francisco. I know those are the meccas of conservative thought in life. I'm trying to tell a joke there. But the truth of the matter is that it's the left that's doing this, and they're just trying to transfer all of their problems and all of the things they do to us. And I'm not going to let them do that on the show.
Send the National Guard in. You kidnap people off of the streets and pretend that's normal because that's how you quiet dissent. Because you make everyone.
You mean the people who are here illegally, who entered this country illegally? They need to be out of the country. That's what's absolutely killing our labor market. And let me tell you this about the Democrats. They're saying, oh, if we get rid of the illegal aliens, who's going to pick our vegetables? Who's going to do our produce? Well, at some point, the market will correct itself and Americans will do that. But where have I heard that excuse before? If we don't do this, who's going to pick our cotton? Who was the party that said that? Yeah, just what I thought.
Everyone afraid that if they don't do what you want, they might be next. And once you've done those 9 steps, step 10 is easy. That's when you decide there won't be new elections because everyone's either afraid, poor, broken, or complicit.
And that's where I'm going to stop it right here because this is something that the left says. Oprah Winfrey said it. And I've saved that sound. I'm saving this sound too because in 2026, when we have an election and we're going through it, I'm going to this fear mongering, this dissent that this lady is causing and trying to endure into the American public, and shows like this, who absolutely nobody's listening to Jimmy Kimmel or the late night comics anymore because it's not funny. It's not even funny anymore. It's just pure propaganda. And we're wise to it. We're better than that. I'm not saying it's easy to be conservative. It's harder to be conservative because we actually got to think through things, and we don't have to feel our way through things. That's almost like a heavenly biblical type of thing. If you having to feel your way through something, you might want to think about it, because you might be feeling something that might feel really good at the time, but in the end, you're only hurting yourself. Whether that be drugs, relationships, or drug abuse. It feels good at the time, doesn't it? Oh yeah, it feels good. But that is not what it's supposed to be. And this Stacey Abrams chick, she runs around the country. That's what all these leftists do. They run around the country starting fires and then they leave. And the bottom line is that if we really want to overcome this, if we really want to ascend and get to that next level in humanity, we not only have to overcome this, but we have to bring them up to our level. We have to bring up everybody up to that level. And is it going to happen overnight? Nope. If you think about it, the secular society movement's been really trying to happen in America since the early 1920s. And they've had over a century to do it. And people are saying, oh, Andy, don't bring up God, don't bring up Jesus. The founding fathers did. That's the truth. And right now, it's really hard to bring that up in the public square. They don't want to hear it. They don't want quote unquote religion forced down their throat. It's not the religion. That's just our morals, our values. We value life. Where does that come from? The Bible. And if you don't believe me, go to a Middle Eastern country where they don't have those same value sets. Look how they treat women. And I'm not talking to you on the right or those of us in the middle. I'm talking to you on the left. Go look how Iran treats its women. Go look how Saudi Arabia treats its women. Iraq, Turkey, Afghanistan. I'm asking you not to believe me. I'm asking you to go do your own research. Pakistan. Why is it that our country has ascended from so little to so much so quick? We got to take our last break. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. And you are back. It's the final segment of the Andrew Gosser Show for July 11th, 2025. Thank God it's Friday. It's going to be a great weekend. I hope all of you have a wonderful, blessed, enjoyable weekend. I'm going to just tell you what I'm doing. Tonight, the Sweet Bee and myself will be linking up with Miss Carlin and Brother Shane and Brother Mike and Miss Diane, and we're going out to get Indian food. But we ain't getting American Indian food. We're going to get the Indian food with the hot, hot, hot stuff. And we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to fellowship. We're going to have a great time together. It's going to be fun. I hope and pray that all of you get out this weekend and do something fun. It's supposed to be a little bit stormy, but not bad. Sheep are doing good. Oh, we're going to have to take some sheep in next week to meet the freezer. Going to freezer camp. That's what's on the docket for the Sponge and Sweet Bee show with our sidekick and daughter Toots and her sidekick and friend Splinter. I'm watching you, Splinter, in a good way. You know that's right. Anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Don't let the craziness that the left is trying to push down our throats get to you. Live your life. Don't subject yourself to having a bad attitude because someone else is having a bad attitude and trying to take you down, ruin your weekend. And I know that there's lots of us who have lots of things going on in our life. And, I talk to so many of you, just not when the show is on the air for 2 hours, but during the week as well. And that's the great thing about this community. That's the great thing about WYAB. We're all here for each other. We're all we got. And it's just one of those things where the more time we spend with each other, put down the anxiety device, go outside, go fishing, touch grass. If you want to come see the chickens and the sheep at the farm, let me know. We'll get you over. Get outside and life will be great. We live in the United States of America, the greatest country on earth, God's green earth. There is way too much good out there to let the digital ones and zeros pull you down. We got it good. We live in the greatest state in the United States. I didn't get to talk about it on the show, but do you know that Mississippi is the #1 state to retire in? Your dollar goes further. Your entertainment dollar goes further. Your food dollar goes further. Thanks, Junk. I hope you have a great weekend, too, holding down the WYB Southern Command. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show. Ladies, be a Proverbs 31 girl to your man, and men love your wife like Christ loved the church. Amen? Amen. We'll see you next week.